Okay.
So whenever you're ready,
Okay.
introduction, please.
So my name is Kate Waldron. I teach second grade at Aspire University Charter School in Modesto, California. And today I did a lesson on number strings, also known as number talks. And we did 3 digits today for the first time. So that was what we did today.
Very good. All right, so the first question on that, number strings. So how does this lesson connect to and build on students' prior skills and knowledge? What was taught before the lesson and what will come after?
Okay, so with number strings, this has been, since they were in kindergarten, they've been learning strategies for number strings. And what number strings are just different ways that they can add or subtract numbers. There's also number strings when they get older for multiplication and division, so it all builds upon each other. But for today's purposes of today's lesson, today was the first time they did 3-digit numbers for number strings. We've been doing 2-digit this whole year and teaching the different strategies for that. Now we're moving on to 3-digit. And a lot of them are the same strategies, they're just built upon each other. So they did 2-digit splitting before this, and now they're trying out 3-digit splitting today.
Talk about the standards or cluster targeted in this lesson. What did you do to make the lesson reflect the full intent of that standard or cluster?
Sorry.
That's okay.
So in this particular standard, the students are having to add and subtract within 1,000. And the great thing about number strings is that it really requires more rigor and higher level thinking, because I verbally tell them a story and they have to figure out if it's an addition or a subtraction problem. Now for today, I did addition because that was what the lesson was on. I didn't want to throw them any curveballs. I haven't taught them subtraction with splitting yet. But normally there's differentiation and they have to kind of figure out, okay, what am I trying to solve? So for the standard, being able to add within 1,000, the sum of both of my numbers for the number strings were within 1,000. And also, another part of the standard is that the kids are able to understand that ones go with the ones place, tens go with the tens, and hundreds go with the hundreds. And they were able to show that in this lesson because they were able to show the number strings and explain their thinking of, okay, ones, tens, and hundreds.
Which of the correction indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified?
Okay, can you pause that really quick?
Yeah. Okay. Which of the correction indicators do you think this lesson best exemplified?
So I believe that this lesson best exemplified correction 3 because I provided the students an opportunity to share their thinking with somebody else, a partner. So after I gave them the story, they had to figure out, okay, it is addition. I knew that, but they still had to figure out, okay, what is Mrs. Waldron asking me to do? Once they figured out it was addition, they were to explain the strategy they used, which was splitting, and how they solved it. And they got to do that with a partner, and then they got to listen to what their partner had to say. And what was great is that one student originally, when they had think time or wait time to think about how they were going to solve it, they ended up getting the wrong answer. And after talking about it with their partner, they were able to change their answer, and they're like, oh, I understand where my misconception was. So I believe with the correction 3 indicator of just being able to, as a classroom culture, being open to having kids share their thoughts and share their thinking, I think that definitely was, shown in this lesson.
Discuss how this lesson illustrates the shifts required by the CCSS.
Okay, let me think about that one again.
All right. How does this lesson illustrate the shifts required by the CCSS?
Okay, so with Common Core, as we know, the standards aren't taught in isolation. So we know they build upon each other, kindergarten to first to second. They all build upon each other conceptually. And what's great about number strings and like the lesson I did today is students learn very basic strategies in kindergarten, and they move forward to first grade. And then when they get to me for second grade, they learn even more strategies. And then again, they build, for third, fourth, fifth, all the way down. They build upon each other. And I know that's one of the goals of Common Core, to make sure that everybody's kind of in sync and, making sure that our kids are not having any gaps in their knowledge. So what's great is that my kiddos have been doing this for a few years, and now with this lesson, now they're up to 3 digits. I mean, they started at one digit plus 1 digit, and now they're adding 3. So it definitely goes with the shifts of Common Core, because not only are they adding 3-digit numbers, but they're adding 3-digit numbers in different ways and different strategies that works for their brain. Oh, let me put this down.
Let's see. How did the students handle this lesson? Did they understand the mathematics of the lesson?
My students, I feel that they did really well with this lesson. They were able to apply what they learned from the first splitting lesson, where they were able to use base 10 blocks and really understand the meaning behind splitting and how it works and why it works. They were able to apply that to a word problem, which is great because it's more real life. It's more, these word problems that I give them, they're more about real life stuff. Today's was about my husband and I throwing a party and how much money do we have to spend on this and this. So it kind of gave them an idea. Okay, here's the strategy, and now how can we use it in real life? And so they were able to apply what they learned in the first lesson to the second. And overall, they did great. They were able to talk about it with their partners. A few kids came up and shared out, and there really weren't any misconceptions that came up. So overall, I think it was a pretty successful lesson.
Explain how you differentiated in this lesson. Did all students have opportunity to work on grade level content? If not, explain why.
Okay, so number talks or number strings is, if there could be a definition of differentiation, it would be number talks, because kids usually are able to come up and use any strategy that works for them. Today in particular, I chose not to give them the freedom to choose whatever they wanted to do, because I wanted them to really focus on practicing the strategy we just learned. So every couple weeks when we learn a new strategy, we focus one day on having them just use that and practice it. And then the following day, we go back to how we always do it. They can choose any strategy they want. So you didn't see a whole lot of differentiation in this particular lesson, because I told them, I really want you to practice this. I want you to apply what you've learned. But normally in number strings, there is a lot of room for differentiation. They can use whatever fits their brain best.
Which behaviors from correction 3 did the students best exemplify in this lesson?
That would be the same answer as the one a couple times ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's see. Reflecting on the lesson, what worked well and what might you do differently?
Let me think about that for a second.
Reflecting on the lesson, what worked well and what might you do differently?
So overall, I think it went really well. We have the procedures down because we do number strings so many times, about 2 to 3 times a week. So they're already really familiar with how it the procedure of how it goes. I think it was great that they were able to apply what they learned in the first lesson to the second lesson, and practice those splitting skills. So overall, I think it went really well, and they were all able to practice, and they practiced great. And they were, discussing with their partners. One student had a misconception with their adding, and they discussed that with the partner and were able to, realize that. And so it was overall really successful.
Cool.
Okay.
You're done with that. Well done.